Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Barakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure unto the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter, World War II, which is past, and what do you think that third woe is? World War III, which is yet to come, but which is coming quickly. And this is further reiterated in Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. The second woe, World War II, is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And we can clearly see that World War III is at the doorsteps. This whole situation in Ukraine has just been the match to light the fuse to the bigger World War III, which is ultimately going to take place in that Middle Eastern region, the Valley of Jehoshaphat, for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, that you can further read about in Joel chapter 3. And then, of course, you've got the rumors of wars, China versus Taiwan, Israel versus Iran, which is also going to play into the bigger battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, etc., etc. And World War III will go nuclear. You're not just hearing about Russia or these Western nations talking about the threat of nuclear Armageddon, nuclear conflict for no reason. It's all a part of biblical prophecy. This is 2 Peter chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 10. And the header reads, A new heaven and a new earth. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away. And the heavens passing away is this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the biblical Edomites, or these so-called white people, passing away so that the kingdom of heaven, under the children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, can be ushered in, because in the scriptures, heaven and hell can be symbolic for conditions. If you're in your heavens, that means you're in rulership, and if you're in your hell, you're in captivity. You're a second-class citizen, which we can clearly see these Edomites, and to an extent these other heathens, are in their heavens, while the children of Israel are in their hell. But once these nukes start flying, there's going to be a role reversal. The head's going to go back to being the head, and the tail is going to go back to being the tail. Speaking of you Edomites and heathen nations, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And what's going to melt the elements with fervent heat and burn up the works in the earth? Nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth during that third woe, World War III, which, as we read in Revelation 11, verse 14, and can clearly see in the news that it's coming quickly. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? This is speaking to the elect of the nation of Israel, who are diligently doing whatever they can to stay in the good graces of their power, Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi, so they can have that protective hedge of the Most High over them during these calamities of Jacob's trouble, and ultimately see salvation by getting beamed up onto the chariots, which people ignorantly refer to as so-called UFOs, to be saved from these nukes. What manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Verse 12, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High. To you sincere Akim and Akwat out there, and Abaratazah, I'm of that elect number as well. We should be hastening the coming of this great destruction, of these nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth, of World War III. Because with the destruction of the heavens, or this current age of the heathens ruling, chiefly the Edomites, we got next. The kingdom of heaven comes afterwards, where we're going to be in rulership for eternity and be at peace, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat from those nuclear missiles. But I opened up the video with these verses to preface a video from the Canadian Preppers YouTube channel. And hey, the Canadian Prepper's been on fire lately, bringing out much edifying information, which allows the prophets to watch his information and filter it through the scriptures to show you exactly what times we're living in. But the title of the video, Breaking, U.S. Department of Defense issues major nuclear warning, and no one cares. And of course no one cares. The majority of these people out here are fucking deadheads, and they deserve every bit of judgment that they're going to get from Jacob's trouble and ultimately feeling that nuclear fire, which is why, as it says back in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10, the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night for these deadheads out here, these the devil's rejects, as we'll call them. But I'm gonna play a little bit of this video and skip around a bit to get to the main point. But it clearly shows what times we're living in. The times of the third woe, the times of the works in the earth and the elements burning up with that fervent heat. We're in the times of the end of this age of the rulership of the heathens and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. And of course, first and foremost, the second coming of Yahawashi Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ. And besides information like this, we can see that all these last few end times prophecies we're waiting for, besides World War III and the nuclear destruction, are in the process of taking place as we speak. We know the fame of the word is quickly coming. Just look at this whole situation with Kanye West. He's getting canceled by a bunch of mainstream outlets out here for him saying his anti-simulation, as we'll call it, comments. And what did he do? He mentioned that so-called black people were Israelites, which, a lot of points he was making were on point, but he's not a man of the Lord. He's just he's controlled opposition to put further heat on this truth, so these the powers that be can label it as hate speech and be justified in taking our videos off the internet and then eventually coming after the men of the Lord on the highways and byways. But you elites, you aren't doing anything to stop this word. It's all through the will of the Most High to bring about the fame of the word regardless. As it says in the book of Acts, I believe it's in Acts chapter 5, we can do nothing against the truth, but for it. And then, of course, the charagma, the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, which is the RFID/NFC MICROCHIPIMPLANT. Its mandatory implementation is right around the corner. You're seeing all these different central banks across the world moving towards a digital currency. You've got on November 30th, Elon Musk doing the first ever human trials with Neuralink, in their right hand or in their foreheads. And then you're just hearing more and more talks in the news about people getting C-hipped so that they can do what? Unlock their cars, like that guy that went on one of those mainstream news networks like CNN said he could do with his Tesla, with his C-hip, as well as unlocking his door. And then what? Eventually, that you may neither buy nor sell, get a job, travel abroad, or do anything lest ye get the C-hip, the charagma. And once that thing is mandatorily implemented, shortly thereafter, that's when World War III is truly going to kick off and these nukes are going to start flying. But let's get into this video. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. The U.S. Department of Defense just issued an 80-page warning to the world that basically nobody is paying attention to, that we need to talk about today. And there's some very funny stuff going on in the media that we need to discuss. Now, guys, I want to say right off the hop that I greatly appreciate the fact that you come here day in and day out and give your hard-earned time and attention to me. I want you to know that I do not take it for granted. I try not to half-ass this stuff, even though I'm in a car or in front of a screen, which is kind of tacky. Look, we are working on doing a lot more high production stuff on the channel of high quality premium without action, and we need to take action. Now, something very suspicious is going on with respect to the nuclear escalation that we're currently seeing, in the fact that we're not hearing about it at all. You see, back during the Cold War, during the peak years in the medium-range missile crisis of Europe, there were people protesting throughout that time. There was a lot of discourse about nuclear escalation, the potential for nuclear war. There was movies made out of it. Now we're at a point where we're arguably an order of magnitude at greater risk, and there's literally crickets. There's no word of this in the media whatsoever.
Day of the Lord coming as a thief in the night, and people have become much more dumbed down since then, from the chemtrails, GMO foods, cell and Wi-Fi radiation, all this garbage that they play on TV, in the movies, they show on social media, microplastics, those, what do they call them? Those are phytoestrogens, all these different chemicals and other psychological attacks that the powers that be put on these people to get them dumbed down, so they don't pay attention to anything at all, so they're able to push through their agendas and continue to fuck you over. The only thing the majority of people are worrying about is Kim Kardashian and Pete Davidson breaking up, and will they or won't they get back together?
There are literally 100 data points right now that indicate that we're at the highest risk of nuclear conflict in history. We also have simultaneous exercises, nuclear exercises happening during a war in which the United States military now and the Russians are a spitting distance.
Who are going to be the two main players in this upcoming third woe.
From one another, engaged in a high intensity conflict on the European continent. All of those things provide all of the ingredients for a recipe for disaster, for nuclear disaster. And there is a complete paucity of information within the mainstream media about this nuclear scare. And we have to ask ourselves why. Because the media...
And now I'm going to jump to the 5-minute and 11-second mark.
Anyways, we're at, I would definitely say we're at DEFCON 2. You have a major high-intensity conflict going on in Europe between nuclear superpowers. And you have both doing a simultaneous nuclear exercise at the same time. That's as high as it gets before going to the point of imminent nuclear war. So, for whatever reason, people are being kept in oblivion as with these curated algorithms and this very tightly controlled media for some reason, and instead we're subdued and pacified with all these other types of distractions. And it appears as though as we approach the culmination of all these crises, be they ecological, environmental, climate-based, contagion-based, biological contagions, whether they're conflict-based. As we approach the culmination of all these things, there's more and more distractions. So there's less and less of a chance that we're actually going to engage and potentially do something about it. Now, Putin today has warned that we're likely in the most dangerous decade since World War II.
The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly.
Okay, so you have a situation in which the United States right now is doing this mission creep into Ukraine, which is not being called attention to. And I think the reason why they're not talking up the nuclear scare is because they want to do the mission creep thing. Is that they want to... if people knew the risks the nuclear risks, they would be protesting the war. That's the main reason. I should have said that right from the get-go. Sorry it took me so long to get to that point. But I think that's essentially what it is. It's that they don't want to call attention to anything that might scare people out of their support for this conflict. And that, unfortunately, right now, is what any talk about nuclear weapons, that's the effect it is going to have. That's the only effect it could possibly have. It will not increase our support for the conventional supply of weaponry and support to the Ukrainians. It will only diminish it. So I'm guessing that that's the reason why this isn't being blasted from the rooftops, even though, you know, the degree to which the media is ignoring it is the degree to which it is actually important. Okay, so the Department of Defense, like I said today, released this National Defense Strategy. Okay, and get my thumbnail shot there. There we go. And it's an 80-page document which uses all the fancy buzzwords to disguise the fact that they need to do a complete overhaul of their strategic arms. So we're talking about land-based forces, sea-based forces, air-based forces, and supplemental capabilities. So they're going to be putting immense amounts of resources now, but they're doing this under the radar because this should be mainstream news, but it's not. Okay, and what this tells me is that they finally realize that, holy crap, the Russians in particular have been, for the last 20 years, investing in modernizing not only their strategic nuclear arsenal, but also their missile defense capabilities, and that we are years behind where they are, and that if a nuclear war were to happen today, we would likely lose. And I know a lot of people...
Not likely, will. And that's all through the will of the Most High that these Russian Edomites have become much more advanced in their nuclear and missiles technology than the U.S., because they're going to be the one leading the charge in shooting nuclear missiles onto the United States of America.
People don't like to hear that, and a lot of people who are not aware and who are sold on this myth of American military superiority, in which they are superior in many ways, but when it comes to intercontinental nuclear conflict, they simply are not. We've gone over the many reasons as to why the U.S. military is deficient in that respect, not in all respect. They have the best planes, they have the best aircraft carriers, best lots of things. But when it comes to big FU nuclear weapons, unfortunately, they're just not world class anymore.
And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Fuck a aircraft carrier, fuck land armies, fuck fighter jets. That is nothing compared to a nuke, which should wipe all that shit out in seconds. Let's look up something called asymmetric warfare. Okay, so you've got a fleet of aircraft carriers with some of the most advanced jets out there, but we've got hypersonic missiles that we can shoot at you from submarines, from fighter jets, or from coastal lands that can get past any of your missile defense systems that your fighter jets may have, or your aircraft carriers have, and just sink them. So what is that? That's just $100 million graveyard. Let's get back into these precepts real quick. This is Joel chapter 2, verse 1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain, which is exactly what the men of the Lord, the prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS are doing, by going out onto the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles on the internet. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. Hey, this message is mainly geared towards you Israelites. Hey, to tell you of the terrible times to come and what you can do to be safe from them. But only the elect are going to take heed to the message. As for the wicked of our people, hey, they're going to get caught up completely in Jacob's trouble, be destroyed, and be just more fuel for the fire, along with these heathens out here. And hey, we prophesy to you heathens as well, especially you Edomites, telling you that no good times are coming. There's no build back better or make America great again. Hey, we're living in the twilight hours of the United States of America and these Edomite nations ruling as a whole before they go down and you and these other heathens go into slavery. For the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And when we see information like this come out, we know that the day of Yahweh is very nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. Speaking of these nuclear weapons, there hath not been ever the like, which is referring to how these nuclear weapons came about very recently, beginning with those 2 atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima during the Second World War II, back in 1945. Neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. When these nations go to shoot their nuclear missiles, every single one is going to be fired. And then after the dust settles, hey, the 144,000 who were fishers of men right now are going to be hunters in that day with spiritual powers like Black Adam, led by Yahushai to go and hunt down you heathens and slap chains on you so you can begin serving your slavery in the first 1,000 years in the kingdom of heaven. And the Yahushai and the 144,000, the first ones they're going to be coming after are you elites, you Rothschilds, you Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Cargiles, the Aldriches. Hey, a lot of you are going to survive this nuclear destruction by hiding in your underground bunkers, your luxury submarines, your mountain bases, and even low orbit space stations. But that's not because you're going to come back to the surface and continue your NW0. You're being preserved to be the first fruits of slavery in the kingdom of heaven. A fire devoureth before them, that warhead with the destruction at the front of the missile, and behind them a flame burneth, the rocket booster on the back of the missile. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them. The land looks normal. You've got cities, sodomites, whores, animals, parks, life going on as a so-called normal, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. Once those nuclear missiles hit their targets, they're going to turn those places into desolate wastelands like Mad Max or Fallout or any of this other post-apocalyptic media out here. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face the people shall be much pained. And when people hear those nuclear sirens going off and hearing those alerts, people are going to be running around, scrambling and screaming because nothing good is coming their way. All faces shall gather blackness, or ash, or soot, people getting burnt to a crisp by these nuclear missiles. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march everyone on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. These missiles are going to reach their targets without any problems, and the main target is going to be the United States of America. And as the Canadian prepper just said, the Russians are years advanced in the U.S. on nuclear missile technology as well as missile defense technology. And like I said, that's all through the will of the Most High to make these Russian Edomites more advanced than these American Edomites, so they're geared up to fulfill prophecy. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk everyone in his paths, and when they shall fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And that sword is symbolic for these anti-missile defense systems, which are going to fail in that day. And it's already been stated that these hypersonic weapons that the Russians have can beat any U.S. anti-missile defense system that they have. And I believe Putin said the same thing about the Sarmat Satan II missile. But ultimately, it's going to be the spirit of the Most High on these advanced weapons guiding them to their targets without any problems.
Well, they're talking about how they're going to build new bombers, they're going to build new ICBM missiles, they're going to build new submarines, and all this stuff to get prepared for what Putin is saying is going to be the most dangerous decade of our lives. And when Lloyd Austin presented this at a press conference, he used the word acute many, many times, that Russia was an acute threat to the U.S. military. Now, again, you have them speaking out of two sides of their mouth, because you say that the Russians are an acute threat to the United States. An acute strategic threat, meaning that there's a potential here that the Russians could wipe us off the face of the earth. At the same time...
And we'll end the video on that note, and the Russians are going to wipe the U.S. off the face of the earth, along with these other nations that are going to be allied with Russia, and they're all together going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the U.S. This is Jeremiah chapter 50. I'm going to start at verse 9, but the header reads, Prophecy against Babylon. And this isn't talking about ancient Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar. This is talking about modern-day Babylon, Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots in Revelation chapter 17 and 18, the United States of America. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, the U.S., an assembly of great nations from the north country being Russia, because what's north of the U.S.? Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia. And I've done plenty of videos in the past showing that Russia is building back up its military assets, nuclear included, in that Arctic Ocean region. And Russia shooting missiles from itself across the Arctic, as well as shooting missiles from its assets in the Arctic to hit the U.S., would be the shortest trajectory time for those missiles to reach the U.S. And that assembly of great nations from the North country are not only Russia's allies like China, Iran, North Korea, but also the allies of the U.S. like Britain, France, and these other NATO nations that at some point during World War III are going to turn against the U.S. and ally themselves with Russia and her allies to shoot those missiles. Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns referring to the EU or European Union, which thou sawest upon the beast, NATO, these shall hate the whore, the U.S., and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, nuclear fire, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are symbolic for the nuclear missiles, because when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they weren't going to say a modern day Sarmat 2, Zircon hypersonic missile or anything like that. They had to describe it the best way they could with what they knew during their times, ancient weapons of war, like bows and arrows, spears, javelins, horsemen, chariots, a great people, etc., etc. But now I'm going to jump down to verse 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north, that north country, Russia, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, the ends of the earth, that assembly of great nations, Russia's allies as well as the U.S.'s allies, which are going to betray her. They shall hold the bow and the lance, those nuclear missiles, and what do bows shoot? Arrows. So the silos and other launch platforms that these missiles are going to be fired from, they are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon, that virgin daughter, the U.S. And when you read Psalms chapter 137, verses 7 to 9, you'll see that the Edomites are synonymous with the daughter of Babylon. Now I'm going to jump up to verse 40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, and the Most High overthrew ancient Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone from the sky, And he's going to overthrow this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with modern fire and brimstone, those nuclear missiles. Besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the daughter of Babylon, the U.S. is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, which is easy to see why this place is known as spiritual Sodom. This is the #1 nation that pushes the alphabet lifestyle beginning with LG onto the rest of the planet. Just go watch any TV show or movie and you can't turn left or right without seeing an alphabet person in it. And what happened in June, Pride Month, and then they just had this major flop at the box office called Bros. Look that up. This place is clearly spiritual Sodom. Saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. When those nuclear missiles hit this whore, it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards, where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And after a time, only desert creatures are going to dwell here. Verse 39, therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the true children of Israel, who are again known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified, as we can clearly see we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.